It's like I got to make sure because I made so many mistakes starting out.
It's all good.
But yeah, man, this is it.
Perfect.
Test.
Can you hear perfect? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just... we got
Man, I love doing these because it's like having a conversation, but you can hear each other so much more clearly, and it's just everything is kind of blocked out.
Yeah, 100%. Test, 1, 2, test.
Perfect.
You can hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
And I'm good here?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm just going to double check everything. So here's... turn you up a little bit on death. Yeah, man, so this is it. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll kind of just jump right into it. I kind of, never really give you the questions up front. So,
yeah,
we'll kind of just do it live here. So, so Brandon Kelvey, thanks for coming on. Brandon, for those that are watching, is a physiotherapist at Proactive Physiotherapy, as well as the founder of Jitsology 101. So why don't we start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about who Brandon is and kind of your background? And
yeah, so I started off from a professional standpoint, going to Dalhousie. I got my Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. I graduated from that in 2016. Took a year off, worked as a physio assistant, just tried to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had an idea that I wanted to go into physio, but working as an assistant for a year really kind of cemented that. Did some traveling, went to Southeast Asia. That was a good time.
Yeah, where'd you go?
Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. And then I went to Europe the next summer. So I kind of got bit with a backpacking bug, but right. That's a whole different kind of a story that we might have to dive into another time.
Okay.
But yeah, so after that, got into physio, kind of just studied my ass off for a couple of years. And then I did my last placement at Proactive Health and Performance. And yeah, I kind of hit it off with the team, and I actually worked for 6 months at another clinic until they kind of just had the demand for another therapist.
Right. And
thank goodness, right before COVID, they hired me, because if all the lockdowns and stuff happened, they probably would have, put the pause on that.
Yeah.
So 100%. even though I was going for a bunch of the rounds meetings, and, I had a really good relationship with them, it took about 6 months of being a physio, and then they took me on, and yeah, it's been such a blessing. There's so many great people there to learn from, between the chiropractors, the other physiotherapists, the massage therapists. Everyone's so knowledgeable.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can attest to that. I'm a client as well. For those that don't know, Brandon's my physiotherapist. Keeps me kind of all together here lately, as I've been kind of dealing with some neck injuries and all that. But like jiu-jitsu, there's always something, right? You're always rehabbing something.
Big time. So jiu-jitsu for me, it's certainly a bigger part of my life than physiotherapy. I feel everything in my life almost has kind of come from jiu-jitsu in a lot of ways. So
yeah, absolutely.
I started training that. I was lucky enough to, I think grade 8 or grade 9 is when I first started. Growing up, I play hockey and soccer and kind of your conventional, North American kid sports.
Sounds very much like my upbringing.
Yeah. And, but I was always interested in martial arts. The physicality of it, my brother and I would just wrestle like maniacs growing up, or wrestling with the boys in the neighborhood.
WWF, bro.
Yeah. Or, well, actually, no, I never actually got into WWF. Sure. It was entertaining, but I was just kind of, I'm a bit younger than you, right? I'm only 29.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll put a bit of an age on me, but yeah, I'll be 35 in October. So my wife just turned, maybe I shouldn't say, but she's a little bit older than me, like 6 months.
Do you remember Never Back Down?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that movie I was watching that, and, just Jake Tyler beating all the boys up. It was just, I don't know, it was so cool, right? Especially there's quite the jiu-jitsu emphasis in that as well.
Absolutely.
But I actually started off with Muay Thai. The first week I walked into a gym, Fit Plus, I think it would have been 2008 or 2009. TJ Grant was just gearing up to have his first fight in the UFC. He was actually away to fight Rio Chonin. And I started with Muay Thai. I did that for a while, and it took several months before you were allowed to spar, especially as a kid. But then, I went to the adult class and started getting punched, and I quickly realized getting punched in the face all the time wasn't quite as fun. So I dove into wrestling, then into jiu-jitsu, and from there it just kind of snowballed, and I fell in love with it. I kind of haven't really stopped training since.
Yeah, man.
I was at Fit Plus for several years, and eventually I wanted to just test out some different environments. Really went over to Forza. Now I just kind of train everywhere. It's such a blessing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the jiu-jitsu community, I think martial arts in general, like, they're pretty open with you kind of doing your own thing.
Oh,
They're
big
just
time.
happy to have people kind of in the sport, whether it's jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, or whatever. Like, we started off, and I say we, like Halifax Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Society, like the club I train at, you're there too. They started as kind of like jiu-jitsu specialists, and, they kind of started branching out, making some new programs. We got, some great folks there. We got Muay Thai. We got Chris Kalatis for MMA. He was champion M1 Global, fought in the UFC as well. So we got a ton of depth of experience there. So it is really, really great to see. What gym did you start doing Muay Thai at?
Fit Plus.
It was at Fit Plus.
Yeah, so Fit Plus.
So you're an OG Fit Plus guy.
Yeah. I was at Fit Plus for 7 or 8 years probably.
Wow.
And I just needed to check out some new spots, I guess. They're a little, it just wanted more training partners, essentially.
Absolutely. I mean, we have definitely a huge selection there too. I mean, just with the clubs been continually growing, it's hard to pass up going to Halifax BJJ just based on the member count.
Well, there's so much to learn in this sport, right? So I received my black belt in 2019 from Crowell and Gracie, and
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the longer I'm in it, the more I realize there's just more and more to learn, right? There's so many levels to this sport. You could be rolling with a blue or purple belt that they don't even need to tell you something. It's just you're rolling with them and you pick up on something, and it's, oh, you're doing it like this. Maybe I should be doing it like that. And
yeah, man,
I think that's what makes jiu-jitsu so special as well. You just mentioned how, the member count over there and how many people are getting involved with it, and how it's just kind of organically, at BJJ Society anyways, it's organically adding the MMA program, organically adding Muay Thai. And I think that's what's so cool about jiu-jitsu is it's giving people an outlet to really safely enter martial arts without the fear of getting punched in the face and getting concussed so easily. And it's a lot more intimidating to jump into these striking martial arts, but with grappling, you really have the wheel. You take the steering wheel to not let yourself get hurt. And I think that's so important to teach from the onset. And that's a big reason why I came up with Jitsology 101, is because you see so many people who come in and, they're super athletes essentially. And like they use their strength and they use their athleticism, but a big part of it is kind of tapering that off a little bit so you can, cultivate the technique as best as you can. And then you can start to ramp it back up as the athleticism, as you get more comfortable in your technique, as you learn to relax into certain positions.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can definitely attest to that. I mean, especially being like a bigger white belt or new beginner starting into jiu-jitsu, I very much would just show up and give it everything I could every day. And very much early on seeing diminishing returns in my efforts because I'm trying so hard, I'm still getting the crap beat out of me because I don't really know anything. And I kind of compare it to I'm bilingual. Mm-hmm. I'm French and English. Mm-hmm. Do you speak French?
No.
So imagine if I tried to speak French to you right now and we had this podcast. I was talking to you in French and you were trying to talk to me. Say I'm only French and you're trying to reciprocate. Yeah, and talk back in English to me. Well, not only are you useless, my communication efforts are useless as well. Mm-hmm. So I kind of compare jiu-jitsu to speaking a language. And it's like you said, you could be rolling with a blue belt, purple belt, I'm a 2nd degree purple belt. Mm-hmm. And if we were to roll, it would take you a split second to be like, oh, he knows the language. Mm-hmm. He knows what I'm going to do. He has enough in there to speak fluently
Yep.
back to what I'm doing. And I think that's like the coolest part. And I think that's where it kind of slides more into like an art than a sport. But I mean, obviously it's a combat sport. I'm not taking away anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I very much compare it to like speaking a language, and like, you know, all those like guys like you see on like, you know, Joe Rogan and them call them out, like the guys that like claim to be black belts or professional MMA or any spheres of martial arts. And like, you know, they say like they can watch him and quickly be like, well, that guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
And it's like not a discipline that you can like bullshit your way out of.
No, I love that language analogy, and I actually use it all the time. I'd even go a step further to say, you know, there's English to French, but I'd say someone who's untrained, it's kind of English to Chinese. Like
Right.
someone who doesn't know anything, they don't even
could
know
be
the
whatever.
They don't even know the alphabet, let
Yes.
alone like the words or the sentences.
Yeah, you nailed it.
So much of what we're doing is just completely counterintuitive, and unless you've kind of put yourself in these situations and have been taught by an instructor, you're just you're gonna drown, and you're not gonna even know where to start, essentially.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So like, you know, want to talk a little bit about both like your profession and obviously Jitsology. You know, when did you kind of know you wanted to be in physio? Kind of what drew you to that? And then, you know, what kind of made you realize that there was some white space here in the jiu-jitsu world for Jitsology, and where do you see that, you know, playing the biggest part?
Right. So, it all ties back to jiu-jitsu, I think, at the end of the day, honestly. I've always, I guess I started even from a young age, you know, grade 7, 8, you know, kind of ego lifting, just wanted to, probably wanted to impress girls or something.
100%.
You know, maybe get the edge in the hockey game. I'm not super tall. I'm only 5'6", so
I'm only,
you know,
we're the same
if
height.
I can't get more vertical, get more wide,
Yeah.
I suppose, right?
We come at it from the same angle.
That's right. So yeah, I was into weightlifting, and then I started jiu-jitsu, and everything became getting better at jiu-jitsu. And for a long time, that was involved still getting bigger and getting stronger, and even with less focus on functionality. But as I progressed my jiu-jitsu game, I realized longevity is kind of where it's at. Not how much you can push on the bench press or how many like chin-ups you can do. It's about using your whole body to, you know, build resilience, essentially. So also I should mention, going into university, I didn't really have a super clear idea of what I wanted to do. I just, you know, my dad is a little bit old school, and it's just, you're going to university, right? You need to go to university. Which program do you want to do? And as a young athlete, kinesiology seemed like the only option.
Right.
I wasn't really ever a huge numbers guy, and yeah, you know, kinesiology, the study of movement, seems like something I would enjoy.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I just kind of went through the motions with that. I knew I was going to have to do something else afterwards, because there's not too many job opportunities for folks with just a kin degree.
Yeah.
So just did my best to get good marks. And then towards the end of my degree, it kind of came to that time. Do I want to go, you know, more of a medicine route? Do I want to go, you know, something to do with the human body, for sure. And I wasn't completely sold on physio, because a lot of, like any profession, different practitioners will treat in different ways, right?
100%.
So everyone's been to the physio where they just slap the TENS machine on you. They put you with the assistant, and, you know, they don't teach you how to move. They just give you a couple exercises, and, you know, and that's that, really. But at Proactive, I saw the type of physio that I wanted to be and the type of patient care that I wanted to give. So it really, once I had that last placement, so again, this is only at the end of my physio degree, where it's like, oh, people are doing this, and this sort of one-on-one 30-minute treatment protocol exists, right? Many therapists are seeing multiple people an hour, but I love that, you know, you come into my treatment room and it's just you and I for that whole time. And, you know, we can talk and we can address whatever issues you're having, and it's just a lot more intimate, a lot more connected. Yeah, but it takes clinics to offer people the right kind of wages, essentially, for that to make sense. So So how do I tie this all back? So basically, I guess I just kind of fell into physio because I've always been a movement guy, right? So that it just seemed like the place to be, because up until that point too, I was also teaching jujitsu at a couple different gyms, and yeah, it was just another opportunity to teach people how to move. And in the back of my mind, it was like, okay, I'm going to become the jujitsu physio guy, right? And
Absolutely.
and here we are. It's just kind of manifesting perfectly.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had a session with you. I think you were shadowing Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Years ago. 2019.
Yeah. It's been a while. And then, like you say, I think there was like a little bit of a gap when you were between like that and then you getting there on full time.
Yeah.
And obviously I kind of maintained, going there. It's been quite a few years now. And, I was getting hurt, like jiu-jitsu specific injuries. And I was going to, a couple other physios, and they're all great. Like, if they're watching or if they ever hear this, they're all awesome. Mm-hmm. But it just made sense when I was just chatting with, I think it was Steve Benson, my buddy there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know Steve. And we're good buds, and I was just like complaining about my neck. And I was like, man, I've been letting this thing go. And he's like, man, you should go see Kelvey. That's who I go see. I was like, what? I was like, where is he at? He's like, Proactive. I was like, oh, he's back there. And then I was like, well, naturally, I'm going to go see the jiu-jitsu guy for my jiu-jitsu ailments.
Right.
And, it's great. I mean, it's great to be able to talk to somebody that really understands, like, you tell somebody you invert, they're going to be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You do what? No, don't do that. It's like, well, it's a stable part of my game. It's not an option.
Yeah, you must. And if you're not, you're missing out on a lot of your potential, escape opportunities and attack opportunities.
Yeah. So I found it very valuable just in the sense that it's like back to the language piece. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm telling you. I don't have to like break it down to like a primary level so people can understand even just like a gist of the movement. Mm-hmm. So, and that kind of ties into my next question. Well, go ahead.
Well, let me tie this into Jitsology actually.
Yes.
Because this has only been a recent sort of development where 2023, right? It's kind of been a big year where, I've been loving physio and it's been getting busier and busier in the clinic. But it's, anytime you start doing something for 40 hours a week, it just starts to kind of weigh down on you a little bit more, right?
Been there.
So I knew I kind of had to spread myself out a little bit differently. And to have my physio hat on for 40 hours a week, it was just feeling like a lot. So I cut my hours back a ton, and now Tuesday and Thursdays I don't start until 2 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it opened up that space in the mornings to just go to a coffee shop, put in the beta waves, and just let some things let things come out of me essentially, right? Yeah, and man. I just got inspired to create a program for folks who are trying to get involved in jiu-jitsu. Because you know how intimidating that learning curve can be. You go in, man. You don't even know the language. You don't even know the alphabet. And there's a lot of other people who are also just trying to learn the alphabet in these beginner classes. So you go in, maybe there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people in a class, and there's only one instructor almost always, and they need to get to everybody.
Right?
Right?
It's tough.
Exactly. In an hour-long class, that's probably going to involve some rolling. So anyways, with Jitsology, I felt like it was just, it just came out of me so naturally. I wrote a 37-page document that just outlines everything you can expect when you go to a gym. So, basic etiquette. Are you going to line up? Maybe. Are you, will you just jump into technique? Maybe. Are you expected to roll on the first day? Who are you supposed to roll with? Who are you not supposed to roll with? Are your nails trimmed? Just a whole bunch of basic things that
maybe you probably don't know coming in.
Exactly, right? That are obvious to us once you've been training
right.
for several months. But if you don't know, you don't know. So I'm trying to take away that learning curve. So people, when they arrive, they're not a fish out of water. And that's what the book's for. And then the classroom session is for biomechanics, posture, injury prevention. All of these things to really lay a strong foundation so that people, they can hold their anatomy correctly so that they don't get hurt.
So I just had a quick question, just to interject, just so I understand. Obviously, these are two separate services. Like when they book you for physio, that's one thing. How do they say get the book by the book, or do they reach out directly on your page?
So the book is for Jitsology 101 students. Okay. So if you sign up for the 1 month course, you get the book, you get the classroom session, and then there's 8 1 hour long sessions. Basically, and I just take everyone through a full curriculum during those 8 sessions.
And that's like the beginner package type thing?
Yeah. So my goal is by the end of that 4 weeks, you will have an idea of at least something to do from every position, right? So if you get put in side control, you'll know how to escape. If you're in half guard, well, 1, you'll know what half guard is, and 2, you'll have at least a couple passes to get through. You'll know what mount is, you'll know an escape, you'll know some attacks. If someone's on your back, you'll know how to escape. You'll know how to just maneuver, right? So it's pretty busy, the 8 weeks, and there's not much rolling, very little. Only in the last session or 2 will we introduce rolling. It's very much just an introduction, right? So when people actually get to a class, there's a sense of, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, I've done this before, instead of, again, not knowing even the alphabet or a single word of the language, right? They'll feel a lot more comfortable, I think.
Right. So would you say Jitsology is more geared towards beginners, or is there also, like, once you pass through the beginner program, do you have additional kind of layers to the program to get specific? Say like someone like me that's like a second degree purple belt trying to like spruce up, a few more advanced techniques. Like I'm just wondering like what's the. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves too.
That's great.
If you're going to tie that in, but.
Well, no, that's great. Like I definitely have a long-term vision for this. I don't plan on slowing Jitsology 101 down at all.
Yeah.
There's, will there be higher level versions of it? For sure. I was thinking about like a return to jiu-jitsu, right? Have you ever heard of the blue belt blues?
Yeah, man.
How many people have just like pumped the brakes once they got blue belt, and it's like, come on back. Let's get a refresher. It'll be a lot more rolling, a lot more conditioning. So when they go back to the gym, they don't need to be as worried about getting beat up by all the white belts, which, doesn't really matter, but I understand why that might be a little anxiety provoking.
100%. I mean, when you're new, I find like any gym, it's like if you're a higher belt, automatically the lower belts are like, and you're new, it's like, I'm going to give this guy a try.
Yeah, especially if you're a white belt trying to get your blue belt.
Oh, buddy, absolutely. So I get it. But yeah, and for people obviously watching, like, the environment in the gym is very positive, and nobody cares, at any level. I mean, mentally maybe like people take stock of it, but like, I got subbed the other day by a lower belt. It's like, I have a neck injury, man. Like, I'm going to tap early. Like, I don't care.
Oh yeah. The sooner you can like leave that ego at the door, right? The quicker your development's going to be. 100%.
At the end of the day, like, we know what we're capable of. So if we need to go to war, like, buddy's probably not getting it, but at the end of the day, it's longevity, right? I don't want to jack my neck up and I just come see you yesterday and I'm back again tomorrow. Yeah. And then it's just like a compounding issue. It never really gets better. So.
Right. And this is something I'm hammering away at the students. It's that you have the duty and the responsibility to stop a roll if you feel like you're not safe, or, if you feel like someone is genuinely trying to hurt you. You need to talk to them, talk to your instructor, because the instructor can't watch everyone at the same time, right? Yeah. So you really need to take your safety into account. Now, like I say, Halifax BJJ is amazing. Everyone there is like super friendly. 100%. And I never catch that sense of animosity from anyone, but there are places where obviously intensity is going to get higher, and you kind of build that relationship up with people as you roll with them more and more, right? The first time I roll with someone, I don't just clash and, lay everything on the line. Yeah. But, after 10, like 15 rolls together, it's like, we start to step it up and we really start to go for it, you know, but every relationship is different, like in anything.
100%, man. Like, very early on, like, you'll have a good feel for like who's there to get after it, and then who's there to just like, there's some recreational trainers, jiu-jitsu folks, and there's some people like the young guys, and I was one of them, very much so. I mean, started off a little bit later. I wish I would have started when you started, but very much like I was working that 9 to 5 grind, right? So for me, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., I was crazy, man. I'd train twice a day. I remember. Because I was like, well, I got to catch up.
Yeah.
So that was my whole thing.
Right.
And, yeah, I was just like getting burnt out really. And yeah, I just kind of had to come to a whole different approach. And it comes back to that longevity piece, because I mean, it definitely gave me some benefits out the gate. Like, I definitely like more mat times, probably better than less. But I just found like it was starting to become like, at the point of diminishing returns. Like, I was just like getting, by Thursday, I'd be so beat up and exhausted. Like, I was just kind of there.
Yep.
Trying to survive kind of type thing.
And I think, Vince over at Durable Grappler, he makes a really, it seems with his athletes, he makes a very important point. Some days are dedicated to go hard, and some days are dedicated for going much easier. You maintain that nasal breath. Like, if you're in that nasal breathing range, from what I understand, you're in a very safe, sustainable pace. You can't go hard every single day. It's not going to work. And the sooner you can kind of put that aside, put your ego aside, that you need to like be the top guy in the gym every day, the quicker you're going to develop, because you'll just be consistent over the long term.
Yeah, man, and that was a huge turning point for me. Obviously, super competitive. I'd be lying if I said I didn't try to win most rounds, but more so recently, like I said, like, I got subbed the other day. Yeah, I got crappy neck, but it's forcing me to play other positions I'm not as accustomed to play. And guess what? Some guys that haven't been in the game as long, they have a different game, and they definitely are catching me. So it's just like you said, it's an infinite learning game, and you just got to come at it with no ego and the willingness to learn, to continue your growth. So, so where do you think you can make like the biggest impact?
I think Jitsology is going to be my biggest impact for sure.
Yeah, that's what I meant specifically to Jitsology. Like, where do you feel like you could have the biggest impact in terms? I know you said like beginners, but where kind of do you see your vision? Like, where do you want it to stand up?
So I'll definitely always be a physiotherapist in some capacity, but I would love to, be helping people gain as much control of their bodies as possible. So I'm also a certified yoga teacher, which I do.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I knew you were into it, but I didn't know you were certified.
Yeah. I do some like private classes here and there, but it was mostly to kind of deepen my own understanding. And there's some really cool ties between jiu-jitsu and yoga. I'm just obsessed with movement, to be honest, and to help people gain. I need to be honest with something too, is I don't rep a ton. I'm like the type of guy, I kind of show up to class and I roll. And most of my studying of jiu-jitsu almost comes from studying biomechanics and studying anatomy and studying posture. And it's my game, it continues to improve always.
I was just going to ask, how do you find that's been like implementing into your own
so good. My body, it's never felt stronger. I know my technique could be sharper, but I know I can work on that anytime. I just feel I'm enjoying the process of, working from my core, making sure there's no like weak links in my kinetic chain. And it makes sometimes if you attack a position, let's say you're going for a basic scissor sweep. And for people who are listening that don't know what that is, you have a sleeve. I'd be laying on my back and I have a sleeve and I have their collar or their head, and I would like scissor my legs in a way that flips them so I come up on top. If there's weakness in the chain there as you're trying to do something like that, the force that you're trying to generate through your legs, it just isn't going to work. So since I've kind of taken this approach where, I stabilize my spine and I know how to work from my hips, a lot of things that didn't work before work now. So I feel there's a lot of things where I can just grab a blue belt or grab a purple belt or a white belt that's, knows their basics, that I know is going to respond appropriately. And I kind of get a lot of my repping in through active rolling. So sorry, I've kind of ran away from the question a little bit, I think.
No, it's totally fine, man. I mean, there's no real format. I just wanted to kind of know like where you feel like you can see yourself giving the biggest impact, like making the biggest impact for your clients.
Yeah, right. So helping people like develop this kinetic awareness of how to, use their body correctly. Now, and I think my biggest impact is through these courses. And right now it's capped at 6 people, but there's going to be other things that I'll do through Jitsology 101. So it could be jiu-jitsu private lessons where I'll talk about all of this same stuff. It could be maybe weekend seminars. It could be, more classroom stuff. I've been getting really good feedback about getting people into proactive and putting PowerPoints on the projector screen we have in there, and just really breaking down how important organizing your anatomy correctly is when it comes to attacking certain positions. So yeah, I think that's my answer to that is through Jitsology, through movement education, through postural strengthening. I need to talk to Vince a little more because I love how he conditions his athletes. It sounds like he's doing all the right things. He's giving all the right advice, but that's not necessarily what, kind of lights me up the same way. I know I value it tremendously. It's super important, but I'm more into the, how do you get as strong as possible? How do you use your body, every little piece of your body to perform what you're trying to perform? And then, then let him condition you,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I kind of look at both of what you guys are doing, and you're very much more in the biomechanics and the movement portion of it, and that's kind of your call it niche, I think. If I'm, you tell me if I'm off pace, off target here, but when I look at Vince's business model, he's very much more monitoring the output, so then you can perform.
It's so good
at your maximum level.
Yeah,
so it's kind of I think there's a time and a place that maybe people could use both services to understand the biomechanics of jiu-jitsu from a jiu-jitsu black belt, obviously yoga certified, physiotherapist, so you have a solid understanding of all the biomechanics movements of the human body, especially when we relate it back to jiu-jitsu. And then from having training with Vince weekly, multiple times a week, and he's been on the pod, I look at his business, although he is also a personal trainer, and I know there's some strength aspects in that too.
Of course.
He's very much trying to optimize your overall to get the output you want. So I think they would work great together.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I need to hit him up. It's been on my list.
Oh, he'll talk all day about that shit, man. Shout out to my boy Vince, durable grappler.
That's right.
But yeah, man, that's cool. So, since this is very much, I figured we end up on jiu-jitsu topic more than not. So let's just keep on it. Sure. We mentioned it's an intimidating sport. I know when I started, I'll be honest, I met Sebastian probably 10 years ago on the Mustache Patio. Sebastian O'Malley, do you know? Tall, bald, sleeve tattoos.
I don't know.
He hasn't been around in a long time. I don't know.
Does he train at Society?
Yeah. Beard.
I've met him once. Very, very nice guy.
Yeah, super nice. And anyway, we had some mutual friends, and we were at the Mustache Patio, and he was like, I was much bigger. I was more into bodybuilding, powerlifting. That was kind of, back you were talking that we're vertically challenged. We wanted to get bigger. Well, that's my whole jam. And he's like, man, you should try jiu-jitsu. And I was like, I don't know, man. Yeah. He's like, I was like, where do you guys train? He's like, oh, Titans. And then one of my buddies was like, oh yeah, they're pretty hardcore over there. They'll probably just beat you up. And I was like, I don't want to get beat up. So anyway, on that note, what would you say is maybe 2 or 3 of the most important things for somebody that's even just not new into it, just even thinking about getting into it. And the reason I ask is I actually had a mutual friend, reach out. He's like, hey, can you ask you some questions about jiu-jitsu? I was like, yeah, cool. Send him my way, no problem. I'm just a guy that does jiu-jitsu, so I can only say so much. But, it's this white collar. I obviously won't name his name, but white collar profession, very much concerned about injury, especially from shoulders up, anything visible on the face, hands, all that stuff, and my first thing to him was well, I definitely can't tell you that there's no risk of injury because if I'm being totally truthful, I think being a beginner, there's a higher risk. And as you kind of mature and develop and become a mature jiu-jitsu student, you start to realize when to go and when to whoa. It probably wasn't the answer he wanted, because at the end of the day, if you're worried about injury, bruises, I mean, I've shown houses with black eyes. I mean, I just tell the folks that, hey, look, my passion, my hobby is jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm not a degenerate that fights on the weekends. Like, call my coaches. Like, don't worry. I apologize, but like, I'm a great realtor. I swear. Yeah. This isn't a reflection of me. It's just what I choose to put myself through in my spare time. So, anyway, I mean, he was super good about it. He's like, I just don't know how my employers would feel. And I was like, well, listen, man, like, that's up to you. Like, I'd encourage you to come out, try the class, like, beginner classes. Just be very open that you're going easy. And if you're worried about an injury, like, and you don't know anything about it, then don't roll, because there's going to be some live sparring, and I wouldn't recommend you do that. So anyway, what do you think, like, he wanted to know specifically about, risk of injury. Like, what do you think is some other things, like, if you had to tell somebody top things that you should know about jiu-jitsu before even considering joining, what do you think you'd tell those people?
To minimize injury.
Well, either to minimize injury or maximize their overall first experience, so they're not like, you don't want to set anybody up for disappointment.
Right. So I think you just need to go in with an open mind, right? It's a very foreign place, and you're going in somewhere as a complete beginner. So you kind of need to expect that you're going to suck, right? You're going to be on the nail side of things, right? You're not going to be the hammer in
not
this sport
for a long time.
Maybe
not
months. Yeah, but maybe months. I'd say, at least months, I'd say.
Yeah. Before you're at least getting like any success with people in your same skill set.
Yeah. So you kind of just really need to manage your expectations, and that's not a bad thing that you're going to get beat up. That's just kind of expected. It's expected, and it's something you can look forward to, because it's going to emphasize how much room there is for you to grow. So reframing your thoughts and kind of mentally preparing yourself for that.
Now, would you say that's kind of the best approach for people that are like, how am I going to deal with losing or getting beat up per se? Like,
look forward to
every day.
This is life, right? You're gonna lose at things, whether it's on the mats or whether it's in business or in your relationships. It doesn't always go your way. So you can take it with grace, or you can, be miserable about it and get resentful and angry and all of these things. So
and we are our own worst enemies too, as competitors. Like, we're gonna be hard on ourselves.
For sure. So I'd say that's the first most important thing, is to manage your expectations that it's going to be tough, and then also really take a deep understanding that you are in control of the intensity. So again, if you're really strong and you're really athletic, like if you came in on day one and you grabbed onto me super tightly, you're still going to feel strong and super tight. And, let's say you just grabbed on and you just started pulling and holding and I couldn't budge you. For me to start doing anything, I almost need to meet you with a certain level of intensity back.
100%.
And a certain level of like strength back. And once you have two people kind of clashing at two really high, thresholds, that's when sudden injuries happen, right? So the quicker you can relax your nervous system, continue breathing, and that's almost its own tip in its own respect.
100%.
Breathe, stay relaxed, try to not necessarily force anything. It's almost, in jiu-jitsu, it's almost like there will be cracks that appear and you can seep through the cracks and then you harden. And then something else appears and you move into that position and then you harden. I always tell people who are doing my course or any of my students, try to avoid that jarring breath,
Right.
Like none of that, right? There is moments of like calm and like exploding, but especially at the beginning, just be cool, and tap. Obviously, if someone's about to break your arm, or someone's about to armbar you, you don't want to be tapping when your arm's
verbally tap too. Hey, tap, done.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, tap. Make a good habit of it. But if someone's trying to straighten your arm to finish an arm lock, you don't want to be tapping when your arm's already
too
straight.
Late.
Exactly, right? On your way there, it's probably a better idea.
Yeah.
You need to keep these elbows good to roll another day.
100%. I think there's like, for people that go late, there's pride, and I think by the time they realize they're fucked, for lack of better words, it's too late, and they panic.
Yeah.
And they forget that they can verbally tap as well as
Yeah.
physically tap.
Yeah, and someone like me, you know, an experienced black belt, they're not going to snap your arm like a twig.
Right.
But a white belt or a blue
He
belt,
might,
yeah, white
just
belt
on momentum.
or just excitement.
Right.
You know, maybe they don't get arm bars very
Yeehaw,
often.
we got it.
Exactly, right? And you know, there's a bit of a graded, skillful application when you're at that end range. So
Yeah.
again, it's just tap appropriately for sure. Of course, there's a little more leeway with chokes. We don't want anyone going to sleep.
Yeah,
but,
100%.
Yeah, with joints, you don't want to mess around. You know, we all got jobs to go to
Right.
the next day.
Same thing like Buddy was concerned about. Like,
Yeah.
he's got to go to work, got to do his thing. So,
Yeah, it's all in his hands though, right?
yeah, literally.
Anytime he can say like, stop, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then he can edge into his comfort of submission as slowly or as quickly as he wants.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, speaking of analogies, and it was one that I heard early on in jiu-jitsu, I think it was one of the Gracies that said it, but I mean, you might recognize it, but and I'm sure you've heard it, but it's something that I had to get a hold of and put in my head early on, because I am how I am and I'm competitive and I always want to continually grow. At the end of the day in jiu-jitsu, and I think anything in life, if we're not winning, we're learning.
Mm-hmm.
Often don't like losing. Yeah, okay, we'll lose, but like, if you don't quit, do you really lose?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
So you just got to keep moving forward. I think that was the biggest thing for me if I wanted to weigh in. It was like, you know what? Life's tough. Things are tough. If you want to grow, you got to do tough stuff. So if you want to do jiu-jitsu, it's going to be tough, and you just got to show up. And
Try
at
to
the end of the
enjoy
day, yeah, enjoy the hard stuff. You can't enjoy the good stuff if you're not doing hard stuff, in my opinion.
100%.
So kind of, mindful of our time. I know you got things to do and I got to get to a show in here. Just a couple things, like what would be like a couple short-term goals maybe for yourself personally, you could do for Proactive as a physio, Jitsology, maybe a couple long-term, maybe one for each. What do you think? What are you thinking here in the future? What does it hold for Brandon Kelvey and physio, Jitsology, all that good stuff?
So physio related, just staying busy at the clinic. So as I told you, I cut back my hours there, and I would love to just have the time I'm there being jam-packed. And I think the best, ironically, or maybe not ironically, the best thing I can do is continue to support the jiu-jitsu community as best as I can, because, I'm happy to help anyone, of course, but ideally my day is filled up with jiu-jitsu folks and yoga folks and like calisthenics folks, people who really want to be educated on how to best pull the strength out of their body. So which again ties me back to Jitsology. From a medium to long-term goals, I'm going to get a website here going.
Good.
Just to make the sign-up process a little more seamless.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to get some merch involved, so if anyone has a good t-shirt making company, that would be a good hookup. I need a good hookup for that. I just partnered up with Rolling with Finesse, though. Roll with Finesse.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that because it's going to get the people who do the course a 15% discount.
Perfect.
On their first order. So that's awesome. Obviously the quality of their stuff is phenomenal. Joel and Piercy are doing great things with that.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, they're so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'd like to start doing some weekend seminars, maybe like a more condensed version of Jitsology 101. So instead of, I'm not sure exactly how it will look yet. There's a notepad on my phone and it's kind of getting built as we speak, but I think it will still include the classroom portion, because I can't reiterate enough how valuable I think that part is, where we just go over all the biomechanical movements. We just apply it to jiu-jitsu later. It makes teaching, once we hit the mats, so much easier when people understand what is a posterior pelvic tilt. What does it mean to protract your scapula? What does, how exactly are we going to engage our core to its maximum capacity? So yeah, just kind of develop more programs. Who knows, maybe some other functions on the website, but that's all down the line. I think years down the line, but I definitely don't plan on slowing it down at all.
Nah, man, keep your foot on the gas. All sounds exciting, and I mean, building shit's cool, and it's interesting. I mean, if I told you I'd be doing this today, like when we met in your placement at Proactive, I mean, I wouldn't even have told you, because I didn't think I had the nerve to do like social media content or podcasts and all that. So yeah, keep at it, man. I mean, we'll see on the mats.
For sure.
Definitely looking forward to hearing more and potentially even participate as well. I'd like to get a taste of it for sure. And one of my questions I've been starting to ask everybody, obviously we're the Halifax Network here, and I say the podcast, there's only me, but, it's important for me. I'm a big advocate for Halifax, come from a rural place like Yarmouth County. So for me, this was like a big step up coming from a small community, Argyle, like a few thousand people to Halifax. And I'm often curious, like, why Halifax? Why didn't you move away and do your physio elsewhere? Or, why Halifax? What's keeping you here? What do you like the most about it?
I love so many things about Halifax. I've done a fair bit of traveling over the last 5 or 6 years. I think I've been to like 32 countries or something. It's ridiculous. Amazing. Yeah, it's been great. But honestly, at the moment, there's no place I'd rather live. Will I live here forever? I don't know. But for right now, I love how, the real estate scene is kind of popping off. I love all the work that's happening at the waterfront. I love all the connections that I have just from playing sports as a kid and kind of just growing up in this community. I love, being near the ocean. I love the hikes that are nearby. It really is a great spot to live. But, there's a bit of a curiosity in me, right? What everyone's always talking about Calgary. Everyone's always talking about like the West Coast. So could I pop out there for like a short amount of time? Like, who knows? Life is short and you only have one go at it. So
that's it.
But again, who knows? We'll see where it takes me. But for now, I'm very happy to be hanging around Halifax.
So Halifax is home.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's always been. I grew up in Dartmouth, and I can't see if I did ever leave, I can't see myself staying away for too long.
Right. You'll always be back.
I think so.
Yeah,
we'll see. I'm 29, so
tons of time.
Tons of time.
Well, man, you know what? I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for coming out. Just in closing, where can people find you on social media, Instagram, Facebook?
So on social media, you can find my physio page at BK Physiotherapy, and my Jitsology page, you can find that at Jitsology 101. That's where most of my social media is at. I'm working at Proactive Health and Performance in Burnside. You can call the clinic and just, ask to book in with Brandon if you want to talk about anything that we talked about today, or you can message me on Instagram. I'm pretty responsive on there. If you want to hear more about Jitsology, just reach out to my Instagram account. And again, I'm pretty responsive there on it as well. And it was great chatting with you as well, man. I'm glad that you invited me on here, and I was happy to, come out. We can do this anytime for sure.
Yeah, man, I'd be happy to have you on again. I mean, we're talking about community-driven stuff. This is kind of how I want to be too. Grow up with like the people in our gym that do cool stuff and let people know about it. So that's very much the tune of this podcast, and it'll be the tune for some time to try and help the local community and let people know the cool stuff we have available. So yeah, happy to have you on. Appreciate that. And everybody have a great day. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
See ya.